Okay, so one of the things that's driving needs as we think about going into the future is our style of learning. And you heard Father talk a little bit about this at the beginning, but one of the things that we've been doing in faith formation, and some of you heard this when we talked about it a little bit last fall during the town halls we did around the Feast of St. Francis. Well, what we've tried to do in faith formation is take a step back and think differently about how we want to draw the parish into this process of learning, because what we want that to be is a way of encountering Jesus as a person, and then building on that encounter for us, learning both from what had happened here at the parish before with small group dynamics, and then also about how we tap into what's going on in faith formation kind of techniques in other places, what the U.S. Bishops Conference is doing and some other things that are happening. So we put a team together and did some work, tried to brainstorm some ways that we might sort of reshape faith formation for St. Francis. And we came up with a 4-track model and a new purpose statement around faith formation. And I tried to make that too small for you to read. I think I managed to do that right on the slides. You can't read that at the top, right? But the purpose of faith formation now is to enable our parishioners to develop a personal relationship with Jesus and prepare them to be more effective disciples in sharing the good news. That's what we're trying to do. And so we're going to do that in sort of 4 tracks: catechesis, discipleship, evangelization, and Eucharistic encounter. And each one of those has its own sort of focus, and you've been seeing some of the outcome of this 4-track model already in some of the programs that we've been delivering over the last few months here at St. Francis. The 33 Days to Eucharistic Glory is a good example of that. Some of the additional adoration periods and things like that are all examples. We've got some things that will be rolling out here in Lent coming up this next season that are going to follow this 4-track model. And so that's the kind of the framework. But what that means is that we'll be delivering, if you want to think about it this way, from kind of a technical perspective, we're going to be delivering this faith formation program using a kind of a different style that we didn't use maybe in the past. Because what we want to think about is a new way of learning. And of course, you recognize that picture up there. That's Sheehan Hall, right? You recognize that. So our new approach to learning is going to be different than what we've done. You heard Jack talk about in the original theory, we were looking at classrooms that were going to be like 30 to 35 people, and we were going to do a lecture style thing. We're not doing that now. Our model is short videos or live presentations followed by these breakout discussions where we have small groups that get together and talk about, what did you think about that you just heard? Does that make sense to you? How can you apply that to your life? What's your take on this same topic? We did a lot of that. Those of you who went through the Chosen, stick your hands up, Chosen people that came and did Chosen with us, you know that's what we were doing, right? Same kind of breakout model sort of thing. And the reason we do that, adult learning experts, which I am not one of those, but tell us that improves retention and encourages community building. But most important for us, it's going to enable a closer encounter with Christ that sticks so that we become better at another thing that Father mentioned at the beginning, and that is relational evangelization, because our knowledge of Christ isn't here now, it's here. And so that whole thing means that our kind of facilities need to be different. If this is the model of learning that we're going to use to equip us to be effective disciples of Christ, then our facilities need to look different. What we need is more small spaces we can break out into, less big spaces. So that drives some of the way that we think about the future of facilities here at the parish. That's going to be one of the key sort of theories behind how we think about facilities, okay? So that's the reason that faith formation is a key consideration when we start thinking about what our needs are in the next 5 years and beyond, okay? Make sense? Okay, good. Mike, you're up.
Hello.
Oh, question. So Mike, you can answer my question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, again, Elaine Gifford. I was wondering, I'm on Facebook, which I know pros and cons, but there is a group, a travel group, Facebook page that just started, and they had 200 members in Fairfield Glades, like right away. They started meetings, and it's just getting, into gear. But I was wondering, do we have anything, as far as learning, as in pilgrimages, or I'm sorry, I'm new, I don't know if you previously had pilgrimages, or if the community, the parish, would benefit from those?
That's a great question. We've been talking about trying to do a pilgrimage during Lent. We were going to go from here to St. Alphonsus on our knees. We thought that'd be
Just walking that far would be.
Yeah, we actually are looking at a couple of pilgrimages too. There's 2 or 3 monasteries that are one-day trips from here.
Right.
No fooling. That's actually not a joke. And so we're thinking about maybe offering that as a possibility during Lent.
But what about more, like, a lot of people, I think, still travel. And what about, like, Mexico or...
Well, we actually did something not too long ago. We had, when was that? Back a couple of months ago. Yeah. We're going to leave in June for a Mexican mission trip.
Oh, okay.
So get your castanets out and you can go with me.
Well, I just want to go and see Lady Guadalupe.
Yeah, they're going to stop. They're going to stop and see the Tilma on the way back. So.
They just won't let us back home. That's right.
Hello, my name is Mike Spiller. I do whatever Father Michael or Paul Starr tell me to do.
There you go.
So I'm going to take you to concepts. We're going to skip ahead a little bit. There's been work done. Mr. Bain and Fred and others and Joe. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through it. These are concepts. We would like to get some feedback on this. So there were basically 4 options. We've talked about Sheehan Hall's expansion. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because it's not possible. If we break the footprint of this building, we have to sprinkle both this building and the church. It's $500,000. And we would end up with an expanded Sheehan Hall that is obsolete. So I don't, in my personal opinion, believe expanding Sheehan Hall is a viable option. I'm going to move on from that. Does anybody have any questions about that?
We're all in agreement.
So we could do one of the next three options. We could convert Sheehan Hall into smaller spaces. Any improvements to Sheehan Hall would include an accessibility study. We know we have a problem with the ramps. Some of the doors aren't real accessible, so we know that is a problem. So whatever we do here, we will incorporate that into it. And then we would use rental properties, either the center or the Fairfield Glade Library for larger gatherings. I don't know how convenient that would be for everyone, but it's just something to think about.
Should I tell him?
The next option would be to retain Sheehan Hall in its current form and to construct a small classroom building in the woods across from the rectory. That is our property, and it's a relatively flat piece of land. But it leaves us with Sheehan Hall, which is not big enough for our needs. So let's talk about that for a minute. We're now 700 families. Fairfield Glade is growing at 4% a year. We are a relatively constant percentage of that growth. So even though we're losing 30 to 50 people a year, we're growing faster, and then we're losing, and we're now growing. So we need to make sure that we have a large enough meeting room or space to accommodate more than 160 people, which is the capacity of this room. The other is, no one has touched on this yet, a couple of times a year we open the wall and expand into Sheehan Hall because, it's for Christmas Eve and things of that nature. Eventually, this room will have to become part of the sanctuary because permanently we will need to expand to the sanctuary. This is where it will happen. So, it's a long way off. First thing we would do would, Father willing, add another mass and work our way through it over time. But eventually that's going to have to happen here. I'll move on to the next. That is the current site. And we talked about expanding Sheehan Hall, so I'm going to move to the next. So this is a series of slides about location options if we were going to build a new building. So that oval, the red and white oval, is one option. That is very close to the columbarium, and that piece of property, which is ours, is very steep. So it's expensive to build there. We wouldn't be able to add parking. It would be cost prohibitive because you're going to have to bring it up level. And these are not my plans. This is David Bain's work. He's knows exactly what he's doing. We talked about this a little bit. This is between the office and the rectory. That is how we have dealt with our water problem. So it's not a good idea to put a building where we have a water problem. So the next ones are a series of placements in the woods across from the rectory. And it really is where on that property do you want to put the building. So I'll go through them relatively quickly. You can see them. And what we ended up with was this. And the reason is because we can put parking here. We probably will be required to put some additional parking. That's a code issue. We can face the building towards Sheehan Hall and its existing parking. We can access this building from Peavine Road, running it through to the street in front of the rectory, which allows for truck traffic, as well as people can, if we're going to use the hall and you're not going to the church, you can go in that lot, especially if you are handicapped. So that is the options that we have explored. We have about 1,100 individuals in the parish. So I think, and we need everybody's input, because these are just concepts, we need to be able to accommodate 350 people, maybe 400 people, in order to have enough room for everybody to get together as we have events. We're currently already reducing event size because of the space of this hall. That's why we sell tickets, and there's only 90 tickets for the event that's coming up. I forget it, trivia. The new building would have a entrance portico, restrooms, a kitchen, food storage, other storage, sanitation, mechanical, small office. The hall that is contemplated in that drawing is 4,500 square feet. That would accommodate about 350 people. Yes?
Full functional kitchen?
Yes, a full functional kitchen. And I'll get to that in 1 second. We had one here and it was taken out because nobody wanted to use it, which is fine. a new building is going to raise our operating expenses. If we can, if we have a full functioning kitchen and people who are willing to do it, we can have fundraisers like fish fries and pancake dinners. Our caterers can use our kitchen rather than use their kitchen and put it on a truck and get it here half cold. As long as we don't charge them for it, they'll use our kitchen. And I think it would be a good idea to be able to rent out the space. If we could rent it out for $1,000 a month, 12 times a year, we can cover the basic operating expenses. So it's just something to keep in mind. That's pretty much it. The building would be 7,500 square feet. The hall is 4,500 square feet. That's about 350 people. We want to be able to go from cafeteria style with these long skinny tables to round tables, 8-person round tables, if we want to at any given time, or if someone we're renting it to wants to have round tables. 350 people is the code occupancy. It will be less than that if you use tables. It will be less than that if you use round tables. So we need just to keep that in mind. None of this is cast in concrete. These are simply concepts. Drawings were put together based on, we're trying to figure this out, and that's where we're at. And that's pretty much all I've got. Yes?
Like, do you anticipate the parish population is going to be 1,100?
It is 1,100.
Okay. Why would you limit the size to 250 to 300?
We don't have to. We just need to understand that it's going to cost between $300 and $400 a square foot to build it. So if this concept is somewhere in the vicinity of $3.2 to $4 million. So that is the only limiting factor.
No.
I work with the Romans here, and of course over here we're getting, fortunately, we get a little bigger. We're running out of room. We don't have the room. We're kind of putting stuff on top of stuff, just to give you an example of an event. But we've talked about for several years about the feasibility of maybe putting something in that wooded area which would face this way. And we had several people look at it that I know that are in construction and engineering. And according, of course, how big you make it and how fancy, it doesn't need to be fancy. It can be, you've seen some glorified pole barns that are beautiful. But something that would give the people the room, the area for social events, to meet, to also have the kitchen, have storage, and we don't always have to move the tables because they would be set up. But to me, that's, if we could swing it, that would be a wonderful idea because it's easy. It's one level, there's no stairs, handicap accessible. But for that type of building to be used by our parish, it has just a multitude of uses, and I think it would be a wonderful idea in my opinion.
It would also be dividable, so that if this did become part of the church or we needed more small spaces, we will be able to divide it. We can divide this room, but we have to put up walls, stud and drywall walls, because the ceiling won't support these temporary walls. Yes?
You feel like Vanna White?
I'm getting my steps in.
I got two questions. One was, is it a one-story or two-story building?
One.
Okay. And you guys obviously did a lot of thought, looks like, and that's great. But the other thing I was wondering, has it ever been thought of or discussed if someone had an estate, passed away, and donated a home, would that be a possibility for small meeting rooms?
It's possible, but it wouldn't be on site. So we have people traveling all over. That really is the issue with renting the center or the library. And the center is actually rented out 300 days a year, not all of it, but parts of it are, so it's used. And
My name is Kathy from there, and I'm wondering, what is the square footage of the proposed?
These drawings are a 7,500 square foot building with a 4,500 square foot hall. This hall is 2,340 square feet.
Okay. My other question is, you know how after Mass, many times we have coffee and donuts, and people come from, would they then have to go across the parking lot?
It depends on how big it was, yes, more than likely. But part of this will remain, the hallway part in this piece right here will remain open, but it's not going to be this big, because there'll be 2 classrooms towards the back. So we'd have to figure that out, but yes, it's very possible that if there was an after-church event, you would go to this, whatever we're going to call it,
Okay,
event center.
thank you.
This kitchen will remain here.
That was my question.
I don't know what we were, the dishes and things like that that are stored in the cabinets, I don't know that that will be here, but that's certainly available for storage. And we do have a storage problem. I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but we have a huge storage problem. There are things stuck in every nook and cranny, and there's a couple of things that only one person knows where they're hidden. So, I mean, yes, sir.
If you reduce this space, this open space, and in the future you have to open this up so it's part of the sanctuary because of our church growth, would that make the expansion too small if you cut out 2 more small rooms in the back?
If we needed it, we would just keep taking we would take the walls back out. But part of this will remain available for this expansion temporarily through this movable wall. So, I mean, if you were going to, yeah, so the church seats 360 people. You're not necessarily comfortable, but you're in there. Okay. Keeps the sermon shorter. Yes, ma'am.
Would the rental just be to parishioners, or would it be for the whole community?
It would be to the community. So anyone who is interested, so one of you gets married, you want to have your wedding, that would be fine, or someone else. Now, there would have to be scheduling. The church would have a priority, but you would have to schedule. So we're supposed to be doing that anyway.
Mike? Would the insurance go up if we're renting to the public?
Yeah, we looked at that, and even if it did, you can buy event insurance.
We can
Back
now,
here.
even now, we can rent out the spaces that we have. Catholic Mutual provides having event insurance if we have an event. Our insurance will not go up simply because the diocese is self-insured. And so it covers all of the parishes. So our insurance wouldn't go up, but we would have to require event insurance for use of that hall.
She's been waiting.
I'm a party of one, I think, in here that is not in favor of the new building across from the rectory. I do not believe in the church going into debt for what we're going to get. And my question is, are we going to be updated continually about what the final decision is? In other words, you're not going to do whatever you're going to do, because I think you've got your mind made up. You're not going to do what you're going to do and then come back to us and say, oh, okay, this is the final word. That's my question.
2 things. One, no decisions are going to be made until we digest what we're hearing from the town hall and all the input cards. And then decisions would be made, and then we would discuss it with the parish and see if everybody's in agreement. So no one's going to force anything. And no decisions have been made. We're just trying to come up with what we think is viable. 2, this is more important. It is not our intention to go into debt. We have to raise the money. This is not going to happen overnight. This is probably a 4-year process. And during that period of time, we're going to have to raise the money. Now, with approvals, we can raise half of it in cash with a plan to raise the rest of it before the building is finished, and the diocese will lend us the difference. But it's only for a short period of time, and we have not made that decision, and it is not anyone's intention to have long-term debt.
My name's Susanna, and I have another question. If say you will build this building over there, which I think is an excellent idea, is this working?
Yes.
Would they build the building so that if down the years from now they needed to add on to it, it could be added on to?
I would suspect what we build is going to be a one-story rectangle. It would be added. You would be able to add on to it. I don't believe that. It's certainly a possibility. It's not a great financial thought to build too small of a building now with the idea that 2 years from now we'll add on to it. That's not a good idea. But someone, I think, could do it sometime in the future. I won't be here.
I'm talking the way you have it planned out, that size.
Yes, you could. It's a rectangle. You go out the back.
Yeah, okay, but I think the size is good.
Oh, hi, Mary.
Any consideration been given to making this an outreach center, say like for disaster relief or a warming center?
You can do it. It's a big hall. You can do whatever you want. So we can divide it up. There'll be some of these movable walls. You can divide it up to whatever we decide to do. How we're going to use our building, if we decide to build it, will be up to the parish. So if that's what the parish wants to do, the building will facilitate it. It's just a big square. Yes?
I'm sorry. What was the cost to a new parish, a new church?
I don't know the answer to what it would cost to build a new sanctuary, you mean?
The whole new church, instead of piecemealing, what is the cost? I know it has to be a lot, but I'm trying to think of all the things that we're adding on and adding on. And it's still not up to code.
Well, the building is up to code unless you break its footprint. When you do that, you have to bring it up to new codes that have happened since it was built. And the only one is it's not sprinkled. If the building caught on fire, that would be a problem, but we are insured. The building, in my opinion, is perfectly safe. It met the codes when it was built. And so there's fire exits and there's fire alarms and all
I
that.
see that, but we're thinking of building a new building.
That building will have to be sprinkled.
I know, what I'm saying is we're thinking of putting a new building up, trying to accommodate the parish. Can you get on the mic? And just as far as being, well, I wasn't going to talk anymore, but all of a sudden I got my own. I guess my question is we're doing the accommodations because we need space.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to be millions of dollars to build a new church. But even if we still see things going on that we have to repair here, somewhere along the line, the building will probably have to be replaced. Is that an option to look at now versus waiting 10 years down the road when all of a sudden we decide we need a new parish? I'm just asking a question.
We're always going to be repairing. and maybe redecorating or whatever we're gonna do. I don't believe that this, I don't understand why they built this building here to begin with. It's on a hill. So building on this particular site, in my opinion, is not where we should be building anything. We need to build it on the lot because that's relatively flat. So that's how my view of it is. We just have to continue to maintain this building. We just put a roof on it. It was decorated and redone, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. And we'll always have to do things like that. But I don't think it's a good idea to tear this down and replace it with a building that we can't build big enough to make it meet our needs on this site. That's my personal opinion. Anybody else?
Mike,
Yeah.
I was a little confused by your numbers of people. If this area here is like 2,200 square feet, and we get 160 people in it now, crowded as heck, with the long tables, you were talking, your slide says 250 to 300 people at round tables.
Yes.
When you spoke, you said it was 350 without tables.
Let me clarify. The code is 15 square feet per person. And 4,500 square feet, you can put in 366, I think it is. But that is number of bodies. Now you got to put them in something that they're comfortable in. So if you're going to set it up like this, you can, that's not a problem. If you want to put people in round tables or tables at all, you're going to reduce that number because you're capped at 366.
I guess I just don't understand how we're going to build a building. Is it new code for 15 feet per person?
I don't know if it's
Because
new.
our capacity on this, in the kitchen says like 240 in this one.
Yeah, it's the problem is tables.
Okay, I understand that, but if you just put chairs in 4,500 square feet,
You can get a lot more than
you get a
that.
lot more than 350 people, so
Yeah.
your math's not adding up to me. I'm not understanding.
Well, we'll have to relook at it, but that's what we need to figure out is the hall of a new building needs to accommodate about 350 people. So let's look at it that way.
At tables,
Yes,
350 at tables.
yes,
Okay, I'll bound that.
yes, ma'am.
Well, can you hear me? You're so Okay. I wanted to say, I think you might be, we don't know how life's gonna go. And I've been in churches that did expand and then lost people. And I don't mean, to earthquakes or anything, but they just really didn't have the crowds that you're expecting. And if we get too much into this, we get away from mission. And I think Dr. Martin Luther King said, church is the place you go from. And personally, I think we can manage with what we have and be creative. And we could even have homes that open their homes for Bible studies or book studies. And I don't see what's wrong with that. I think what Father Michael has taught me is to rub shoulders with one another and get to know one another. I don't think we need to spend however much money to do that right now. That's just my feeling. I mean, and also I do believe in sacred space, but I think that dancing and singing and worshiping God is sacred. I just think it's sacred. Why not use the sacred space of the chapel for that? I don't think we should compartmentalize our faith. This is secular, this is sacred. If we know anything about Jesus, it's all holy. Anyway, that's just my feeling.
That's, I don't know about the space, Father will have to address that, but it's certainly an option.
Do you know the square footage of the ballroom space in the center?
It's 5,500 square feet.
Okay, that will seat at round tables 300 people.
Yes, so this gets complicated. They don't use the whole room. They use the front part of the room for all the tables where the food are or the bar set up. And sometimes they don't use the back room, part of the room, because that's got the wood floor and they use it for dancing. So back to Larry's question is, we need to sit down and figure all this out. We need to figure out how much space is taken up by 8 people on a round table. You have to have a serving area. You have to have aisles. It's not as simple as just saying this. So we need to figure that out. But in my opinion, you need to be able to accommodate about 350 people out of 1,100.
Michael. Al Garofalo, Michael, real quick question. If we do build a new building, does the architectural committee have a say in what we do with that new building and how aesthetically it looks? Or?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay.
We didn't get that far. All I got is a picture on a square. Okay, I had to go there.
You need the World Court, the ECC World Court is what you're talking about, the World Court.
Yeah, they would provide us with that. We would have, let me go back 1 second. There's 1,000 questions that need to be answered. We need to, what we're looking for is input on what direction do you want us to go so that we can then start answering those questions. You know, we need to verify the use of the space. We have good ideas, but we're not positive. We need to verify them. Yes.
How many actual, of our 1,100 people, actually come to Mass? On an average, what would you say?
We have about 200 per Mass, roughly, give or take.
About 630, 640,
Yeah.
and then we have about 150 people that stream.
Yeah.
And the biggest time we've been, we were back to a little over 700.
We can't hear any of that back here.
Have Jack repeat that.
So, here.
We have about 630, 650 at Masses now. The largest we've been is about 700 some years ago. We have about 100 or 150 people that stream Mass that watch it from streaming.
Mike, did you have a question? Mike Brooks? Right behind you.
I did. My name's Mike Rhodes. I've been here about 13 years. Sorry, I forgot to say that. I have a question, a comment about facility needs not related to the new building. And that is, one thing I'd like to see you look at is the assists that you have for hearing impaired people. The radios that we have right now are of very poor quality. And I'd like to see if we can get something that's better than that. If you got hearing aids with different attachments, you can make it work good. But most people I know struggle with what we have as a product right now.
And that's something that could be looked at independent of this.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was not new building.
Yeah.
That was, I'm sorry, that was looked at about 2 years ago, and at that time they determined that the system that we have right now is probably the best that we can get. I'm sure there've been improvements since then, and that's something that Maggie and I might be able to look at together.
For my own personal assistance, there are sound systems in which you can tune your hearing aids into. That would be a nice thing to look at.
Was there any study, in part of the study, was there any, what's the percentage of usage that this hall gets used now? And then is there a need in the community to, if we build this new facility, to be able to rent it out and recoup some of the cost? That would be the best thing, I mean, looking at for financially.
That needs to be verified, and this hall does sit empty a lot.
Okay, I didn't know if there was like a master schedule in the office and we'd be able to see how often this thing is rented out or.
There is a schedule in the percentage of the used, but I don't think the way it was done is accurate. There's basically 2 times when this room can be used. This is after Mass in the morning, and it's before everybody goes home at 4 o'clock. So there's 2 opportunities, but if it was divided into smaller spaces, it could be used. So right now, you end up with people in the library, or whatever that's called now, and the conference room there and here, and you have sometimes little groups in here, but it's not conducive to doing it. So we go to the Skillet or wherever we go because it's just not conducive.
All right, thank you.
That's my opinion.
Hi. I'm just looking for some clarity, and maybe some clarity and perhaps some review. We have $600,000 in the building funds already, is that
We have
correct?
$840,000.
Oh, great.
Yeah. 80,000.
And-
We're hoping it will be $1 million by the end of the
And
year.
if we were to set up sprinkler system in this entire building, that would be how much, 400,000?
500.
500,000? Okay, so we have a little bit to work with, but that's pretty close to starting.
But it's not our intention to sprinkle this building.
It is,
It is not.
it's not.
No. So there's 2 pieces. One is $500,000. And I don't believe it's going to help anything except for if you wanted to build onto it, which we're not going to do, you could do it. The other is we're going to have pipes all over the sanctuary because there's no way to hide them.
Okay, so there's no way that that's.
We need a 5-inch water main.
So what do we
Because
understand?
this building is 4,000 here and 7,500 there. So this is a big building. We're not talking about doing that down there.
Okay, so by not having sprinkler system in this particular building, are we under some sort of a grandfather code?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, whichever way we go, this is a suggestion, but if you decide to go this way, because this is a huge debt to the parish, but what I would recommend is doing some best practice with other parishes in our diocese with a similar amount of parishioners, because I'm thinking of St. Thomas Apostle and the church where Father went. Not for the building, but future state. How often is the building used, and how quickly did they reduce their debt?
It's not our intention to have debt. But we would certainly look at the other uses. Now, there's a lot of, we should look at this and we should look at that. There's going to be a call for volunteers, because this is a lot of work. Just keep that in mind as you're thinking about what you're willing to do. Yes, ma'am.
Our parish builds a huge hall with the full kitchen.
Can't hear you.
The parish I came from was very large. We built a huge hall. It could be used multi-purpose, and it had a full kitchen. On Fridays during Lent, the Knights of Columbus had a fish fry. Around May, Cinco de Mayo, the Spanish members of the community did a huge dinner. They rented the hall out for personal, groups to do things. And I think it was the whole thing was paid for in about a year and a half, just from the outside things that they did. And if you didn't go to the fish fry early, the line would be long. But it was well supported by the community, as were all the other dinners, weddings, that kind of thing. And the debt diminished very quickly.
Thank you. So those are things we can do if people are willing to do them. We need to keep that in mind.
I do not believe that the community at large
and a lot of our parishioners are aware of the fact that we could actually rent this space right now. I am part of a number of organizations in the community here in Fairfield Lake that we are desperately looking for places to rent to hold events. And this is the right size for a lot of them. I don't think I wasn't aware of the fact that I could rent this space.
I don't know anything about our current activities in renting this space. It would be our intention to actively advertise the space for rent.
But if this space is sitting empty during the week, and we have organizations in the community that are looking for places to meet, then why can't we rent it? If we'll be able to rent the other space, why shouldn't we be able to rent it now, this space?
I'm not aware of a reason that we can't, I just don't think we are. Oh, that's, Jack just mentioned, what happens is we end up with needs for this space that come up without warning, like funerals. So we do need to keep that in mind. Yes?
My only concern is that if we were to rent it out to anybody else, like people, my concern would be that if you did rent the space out to people who are not from this parish, you'd have to be really careful about who you rent it out to, because you don't want people coming in and, using the facility if they're not aligned with our Catholic faith.
That's correct. If we're renting this out, it has to be an organized function with maybe a manager, or it gets complicated. We need to make sure it's not abused. So, you got another question, then I'm going to wrap this up. Yes, Paul?
I was just going to say that for a new facility, renting it out, we could probably plan whatever insurance requirements are going to be needed.
Yes.
We don't have that option here.
Yes.
Or if we do,
we do have that option.
I didn't realize we had that type of insurance.
We do have that option.
Okay.
Just with regard to the space, personally, my experience is that it is not good to rent out this space to groups to come and be here. To rent it out for an event, at one time where you're coming. Otherwise, you have no control over your own calendar, because then we have made commitments to have somebody come in and have that space on a regular basis. I know as regards the uses, I think it has a lot to do with where we live, but the use of space oftentimes depends on the people in Fairfield Lake. They don't like to come out after 4 o'clock. And so in a sense, the buildings are available. If somebody was coming to have a meeting here at 7 o'clock in the evening, and generally nobody is here if you want it for 7. But if you're talking about prime time, which is probably from 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, this place is busy. Yeah, but personally, I would be very slow to just rent it out to groups to come in on a regular basis, because as Jack mentioned, funerals trump things, parish events come up, and we need that kind of freedom to do that.
So I'm going to wrap this up. Everybody has cards. We need your input. This isn't going to go anywhere until we get input. We can sit down and see what that input is and move forward from there. So everybody has cards. There are baskets being passed in the back. Anything else, Father? Did you
Yeah,
want to
I
say a
just
closing
want
prayer?
one thing, that we will not do anything until we get the sense that the parish is behind what it is that we are doing, because it's they who will support it, and it will not be from the top down. We're doing this, so you all get on board. No, it will not be that way. That's why we have this meeting.
Mike?
Just to piggyback on Mary Ellen's comment, please be honest with what it is that you think, what it is that you would like to see or not see. Write it down. It doesn't matter whether it's negative or positive. Please.
So, this was taped, and it will be on the website, and there is a place on the website, or will be sometime today, where you can make your comments online if you would like. Or you can fill out your card, put them in the basket, or you can fill out your card, put it in the collection basket at the next Mass, or you can fill out your card and take it to the office.
Are you good at waxing? Last comment, let us pray before we leave, okay? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Oh God, our Father, I know it wasn't about buildings in the early church, but since then we have built all kinds of things. And I trust that your Spirit will guide us. When they gathered, it was in a room, it was in an upper room, it accommodated. And we ask our Blessed Mother, who was in that upper room, as these new disciples were going out, we ask her intercession to gather what it is that's in our hearts, so that we give glory to her Son in however it is we go forward. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and in the hour of our death. Amen. I'm so grateful that you came, that you waited, you listened. It's been long. I'll follow you wherever you go. Thank you.